All right, people, let's do this. Load up my slides. All right, well, thanks for coming. I know this is before lunchtime, so I'm going to try and keep this super engaging. First off, how many people here use UEFN? Oh man, I'm in the right room. Okay, this is going to be a breeze. Okay, just a little introduction to who I am. The best way to describe my company is pretty much this. Yes, we love cats, especially the ones that shoot lasers out their eyes. So essentially, the company is a production company. We make original IP, that is in film, television, video games, comic books, whatever requires storytelling. But unlike other studios, what makes us a little bit unique is that we built the company with Unreal Engine as the core foundation. And then everything else feeds into Unreal. So we started using Unreal way back, sort of like, God, 4.12, I think it was. And of course, lots has happened since then. But for us, it's like we wanted to create a company where we can hire artists based on their talents, not based on the tools they've used. So we have character artists that use C4D. We have like Houdini artists. We have Blender, whatever your tool, iClone. As long as it feeds into Unreal via Alembic, FBX, or whatever data bridge, it stays in Unreal, and it only comes out in Unreal when we make a movie, as in rendering frames or making a video game or UEFN. Speaking of films, we actually released our first animated feature film created entirely inside Unreal 4.26.2. I know, everyone's talking about 5.4, but here's the thing. When you're making a movie, you kind of need to lock your engine. You don't want to be doing updates, no matter how tempting those updates are. Believe me, they are. So we stuck with 4.26. We started around December 2020, and we finished last year, and we released the film last month. Let me show you a little clip from the film.
These dreams of mine. What if they're not just dreams?
Prepare him to rift.
Max Beyond. Available now on digital.
Such a shameless plug, I know. But you gotta do it. But the point is, the reason I'm saying this is because we've made a full movie that's available on all these platforms. So this hopefully will inspire people to go off and make features now, especially in the animation sector where it's very hard to get a movie done. Like making a live action film, get a camera, get your iPhone, shoot some stuff, get some good actors, put it together, get it to a distributor. Animation is a little bit different. The market is different, the distribution is different, and also the process of making an animated film takes a long time. So we're able to do all of this in Unreal, final pixels. We specifically went very stylized with the animation style and the look and everything. But with that became our first intellectual property at the company. So I was thinking like, oh my God, like we spent 2 years building these assets and motion capture, voice acting, all of this stuff. Can't just leave the story in the world of film. Like the world of film is 92 minutes. You only have a linear way of telling a story. I wanted to explore that further. As a creative, I wanted to explore the world, see what else I can do with the character. So what we end up doing is take all the assets that we had done in the movie, migrated it into a game. Obviously, this is a much later version of Unreal. And really ask ourselves, why should we make a game? Just because we're in Unreal doesn't mean we should make a game. We should have a good reason. The reason always comes down to one thing: story, story, story. And I wanted to find a new way of telling the Max Beyond story and expand that universe, expand my IP. Now, you're going to hear me use the word IP a lot, intellectual property, because as independent creators, IP is our currency. Without IP, we don't stand a chance. We're not a service company, we create content. So I wanted to look at the story of Max Beyond from a different lens, from a different perspective. And that essentially becomes transmedia, right? It's where we're looking at different mediums to tell that story. We then decided to scope the game down even more because we realized, oh God, to make a full-on action Last of Us type game would be a lot of time and money. So we then looked at what will make a fun game that would do things that we couldn't do in the movie, and that is, let's play as the other character. Let's play as the kid with the special abilities. Because in the movie, we only see it from the perspective of Leon. But let's see what it's like with the other character. And the minute we started doing that, we started to introduce narratives that we just would not have imagined doing in a traditional film world. So already we started to look at, well, let's look at combat puzzles as opposed to full-on shoot-'em-ups, because the movie is essentially a shoot-'em-up. And then from there, we managed to get the attention of Microsoft, who signed us up to the Idea Xbox program, which is Independent Developers Program. And it's amazing because you can see here, it's the only picture I'm allowed to post that got cleared by Microsoft. Who's familiar with development kits? Okay, cool. So yeah, for those who don't know, dev kits are basically the hardware used to make the game on the console. Now, when I worked in the industry back in '98, working on PS1, PS2 games, yes, that's how old I am, I really realized it was a luxury to have dev kits. And here I have one in my bedroom. So, with the democratization of animation with things like Unreal Engine, and later we're going to touch on UEFN, we're in a very good space now that every one of you guys in the room can go off and make a game and do a game on a console and work with big brands if you wanted to. But I didn't want to just stop there. I'm like, let's still stay in Max Beyond. What else can we do in the Max Beyond universe and come out with another vertical, another way of expanding my IP? And do you remember the trailer I showed you? You had the big red robot. Well, that's the bad guy. So we thought, let's give the bad guy its own game. But we went more of a side scroller. Again, these are very, very rough kind of looking prototypes. But we were able to get an idea together and really explore what it's like being the bad guy in the movie, but playing as that bad guy. So we had additional narratives, additional storylines, and the mechanics all drive from the idea that this thing is a killing machine. So already from the one Max Beyond script, we have a feature film, we have an Xbox game that's in development, or console games, and we have a spin-off from the bad guys. That's 3 things spinning out of one IP. That's very valuable as independent creators to be able to do that. And all in engine as well. But of course, we can't just rely on the one IP. We also build other stuff as well. So I'm going to tell you a little story about Moontopia. Originally, Moontopia was an animated series we were developing. And we love the idea of using Unreal or just using anything visual to basically avoid people from reading 50-page pitch decks, because no one wants to sit there and read a massive pitch deck, especially if you're going to place that Annecy or other festivals. So we put this little trailer together in Unreal 5. So we showed this at Annecy last year, and we got a really good reception, and lots of distributors really liked it. But here's the thing: making a TV show is a whole different beast than making a feature film. We did Max Beyond feature, and that was still a tough thing, to get into the feature film market, especially animation. Now doing a TV show, that's a whole different thing. You need showrunners, you need a writer's room, you need distribution in place, you need the various network channels in place. It's a whole different keynote about that. So it's a lot of work. And as an independent company where there's only 2 producers, myself, my business partner, Paula Crickard, and our head of CG, Andrea, and then we have other people feed in, there's only so much we can do. So we didn't want to bite off more than we can chew. So we kind of paused it, let it simmer somewhere. We'll come back to it later. So explain that. And then I decided, you know what? I really want to tap into VR. I love the idea of playing with VR. And, instead of creating something from scratch, let's just see what we can do with Moontopia and see if it has any legs in the world of VR. So we put together a very, very rough demo. This is tethered with the Oculus Quest 2 hardware. And again, we spent some time making everything super low res to work in the VR demo. But again, these are all the assets from the trailer. We just low-res the hell out of them. And, it's obviously not very optimized, like 10 frames per second. But what was interesting from a creator point of view was that I'm able to look at the world of Moontopia again from a different viewport, from a different lens, a perspective. That's a big thing as storytellers, to be able to look at your story in different lenses. And in my case, looking at it through VR was terrifying. But as you can see, we had to pause on the VR project because as we showed it to various people, I was like, oh, we love this, but you need it running on the latest HTC Vive, the latest MetaQuest. You need to put all these resources in. And we're like, oh, we're not cut out for that yet. So we paused all of those things, and mainly because they require big investments, big resources. And as a small company, it's a big ask to do that. It's very risky. Then I went to GDC and I saw these thing, UEFN. I'm like, what is that? And it's, as we all know, it deals with Fortnite. And I didn't really play Fortnite. I was familiar with Fortnite. I would see all the trailers and all the cool stuff. And some of my friends play Fortnite, but I wasn't really a Fortnite player. But what was intriguing was all the things that we all know today, which is the fact that you can bring in your Unreal world into the world of Fortnite. That intrigued me. Intrigued me so much that I'm like, let's go back to Moontopia one last time, and let's see if we can resurrect it to work in the world of Fortnite. Now, before I go any further, I have to say, out of all of the platforms we tried this on, we felt that this particular IP was almost made for a platform like Fortnite. And I'm going to explain why in a minute. But the point I'm trying to make is, not every IP can work on everything. And I think part of your process of making content, telling stories, is finding a platform that will best serve your content. And it's very important to have that back in mind as content creators. So obviously, the first thing we did was sign up real quick onto the creator portal. And what's great is I was able to add all of my team very, very quickly, all online. And then next step we did was migrated all of the assets from the trailer. We also used the assets from the VR game because we spent a lot of time optimizing it. So we may as well use that, put it all into UEFN, and see what we can start working with. We very quickly learned that your limitation is 400 meg. Now, of course, like I said, I came from the world of making PS1, PS2 games. The days where you do 32 by 32 textures and you have to UV tile. I mean, that was like, flashback. I love that because it's optimization. Younger members of my team were like, what? My Photoshop file is bigger than that. That's insane. How do we do this? We had been doing this Xbox project. We've been doing Synchromania. We're talking gigabytes of data. This is 400 meg for everything? This is insane. But it was a really, really good way to get the team to start thinking about optimization. So seriously that if we don't optimize it, we do not have a game. We cannot even play test it because you have to validate, right? Every time you do a test, you have to validate. So it was really beautiful to see everyone, especially the younger members of my team, to really be thinking about optimization way more seriously than they did before. Especially because we came from the world of film where we just throw a trillion of polygons on a tree because it's going to be rendered. We also migrated the animation. We also did some verse programming. Now, verse is completely new to us, but we had to jump into verse without any choice because we wanted to create falling asteroids that would appear randomly. So it was a reason for us to learn verse. And at the time, there wasn't many documentation, but now there's a lot of documentation. But most importantly, guys, the same way I learned Unreal, which was watching YouTube channels like Winbush and so on, me and my team pretty much learned by just going on the Discord channels, by looking at the community, looking at what other people are doing, and everyone is in it together. I was just saying earlier that, that this is not a competitive environment. This is a collaborative environment. So I was able to learn so much by just asking people stuff, and it's great. I love that feeling. I also love version control because I'm such a nerdy producer. But what's really good about this is the fact that I don't have to go outside to use Perforce. Now, we love Perforce, just an FYI, we love Perforce. But for something that requires very quick iteration, to be able to stay in one environment is a godsend. Once we were happy, we would start submitting stuff for onto the private server for testing. This is only people that are on the team can look at that so that we can play test, right? So we can start seeing what the game is. So we start doing multiplayer testing. Now, when I was getting to the film industry, I didn't go to film school. So my film school was making short films, making content, learning, fail fast, learn, and then make a feature. Of course, I didn't go to game design school either, but what's really great that I found and my team found on UEFN was that was game design school for us working at UEFN, because every day we were playtesting, every day we get to feel the game, and there isn't any argument of what works and what doesn't work because we're all playing the game together and we're doing multiplayer testing. So that became a massive education for us working in UEFN from like a game design point of view. Of course, during testing, you get all kinds of bloopers, and I record everything. So I always have OBS running, and I would suggest you guys do the same. Have OBS record everything because you always find these funny little bloopers. In fact, this actually inspired us to then later on think about other ways of expanding Moontopia, which is, what if we play underneath the moon surface? That would be cool, right? So that blooper inspired that. Coming from the world of film, we naturally, the first thing we did was make a gorgeous cinematic all running in Fortnite. Now, I think you guys are the ones that are going to be seeing this at the moment because this never really made it in the actual game. Main reason being, it's too damn long. And at the time, we didn't know how to create a skip button. In fact, I don't think I still do. I need to ask someone at UEFN for that. This is what this place is for. But it was too long, and we start to realize when we playtesting, people just wanted to hit the X button after they've seen the cinematic. So that made us think, oh, we have to tell stories in the world of Fortnite as opposed to relying on traditional linear ways of telling stories, which is a cinematic. So yeah, so this ended up being a 20-second, 10-second thing as opposed to this long. One of the things that we did do is went back to the IP, which Moontopia, and remember the pitch I was doing at places like Cannes, EFM, all those film festivals, which is, what is the movie? What is the elevator pitch for the movie Moontopia? And the way I always pitch it is like it's the tension of gravity meets the horror of A Quiet Place. And I was like, ooh, tell me more. It's a little pitch tip for you guys. Use comparables to get people's attentions. So we're like, how do we make that work in the world of Fortnite? They've got this amazing device called the timer. I know it's so simple. You're expecting something much more elaborate. What I love about this is that I remember when we were playing this, I was literally on the edge of my seat. Like, oh my God, there's 2 seconds left, and the music builds up. That's exactly what we do in movies. We use music to create tension. We do editing to create tension. In the case of a game, we have a timer, a ticking time. Everyone automatically elevates their blood pressure massively to get to the end. And that worked. And that just excited me even more as a creative. And bear in mind, I'm still a storyteller here. I'm not like a hardcore dev or anything like that. I'm using the world of UEFN to tell my story, but looking at it with a different lens, like I said earlier. Okay, not many people talk about this, but we should talk about it. Let's address the elephant here, okay? So once you've got your game ready and you want to publish it, you want the world to play it on all the consoles, you have to go through the International Age Rating Coalition. Now, at the time we were doing this, it was fairly new, and it was, it's trial and error. The thing you have to ask yourself is 2 things: that what is your audience for your game? For us, we wanted this audience to be teenagers and above. We wanted as many people to play the game. We didn't want to make an adult-oriented game because that would limit our market. But the thing you have to think about is read the documentation. I know this is so boring, but believe me, the guidelines are there, and it's all there. Now, I have to admit, I'm going to be full disclosure here. I got a lot of that. A lot of those. And that's okay. That's okay because no one gets it right the first time. Well, not me in a way. And when that happened, you have to think, like, what could cause my moderation to fail? What in the game? So I would go and look at the rules and guidelines. And they're very, very clear, like violence and gore. But what is violence? Because Fortnite is a game with rifles. Isn't that violent? Then you have to ask yourself what qualifies as violent. So once we went through that, we started to make some changes in our game. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. Instead of talking about legalities here, the legal side, the marketing side, all of those things influences your game design, influences the decisions you get to make in your UEFN game. It isn't just about UEFN. It's the whole process here in terms of getting your game out. So I'll give you some examples. One of the examples was we had floating astronauts that were supposed to be unconscious, but we realized that when we asked a lot of people, like other players, they're like, yeah, we thought they were dead. And they were like, oh, why would we rescue dead people? That's a bit weird. Has some Shyamalan Night territory there. So like, okay, let's change that. So we then decided, let's make it clear that these guys are alive and they're waving, they're just tethered. So now they're waving. And it completely changes the game design, because now we're rescuing astronauts that need help, but also it passed the IARC ratings, because now we're not dealing with dead people, we're dealing with people that are alive. Simple little things, right? But it makes a big difference when it comes to moderation. The other thing was a scary looking monster. Now I thought, let's go crazy, make something really like horrific. That could be considered as horrific when you're looking to create a game for the masses. If this was a game for 18 R rated, yeah, fine. But we don't want to hit just that market. So we changed it. We literally just changed the shader. We didn't change any mechanics. I'm not reanimating that. But it kind of looks cool. So I'm like, that kind of worked out, actually. So sometimes when you have to go back and address notes or make changes, don't be so hung up about it, because sometimes a really good idea could come out. So now we've got this neon type looking alien, which looked really cool, thanks to the moderation process. Never thought I'll say those words. And once we submitted, we got this. We're like, yay! It's past content review. We can now let everyone in the world play it. And the other thing I was going to say was, because now you don't just have to type your island code, you can type the name of your game. Think of your titles being more unique. Like, don't call it box player, zombie killers, or whatever. There's so many games like that. There wasn't nothing called Moontopia, so it's very easy to type Moontopia. So think of your title, just like when you make a movie or write a book or anything creative, it's the title is very important. What's really cool is that I'm able to play the game instantly on my PS5. I know, I had to film it. But I was like, even though I've worked in games and films for a long time, I still get that butterfly feeling. That butterfly feeling of seeing your game on a console in your living room. It's not the same as looking at it on your PC that you developed it on. But we went one step further. We tested it on the Android, because for us it's important to make sure that as many people play the game. And yeah, good excuse to buy a new phone too. And here's a little clip of the game. Make sure you play the game, guys. I'll be very disappointed if you don't. All right. Okay, let's talk about some challenges, because essentially Fortnite is a free-to-play game, but there are some challenges that come with it, okay? Discoverability. Yes, we're all familiar with the word discoverability. And that essentially is the same if you're making YouTube content. It's the same if you're making a movie. It's the same as anything, making a music track. Discoverability is a big thing. So those of you who are hoping to make a UEFN game and upload it and hope to get millions, you're in for a serious shock. You have to do a lot of work to get to discoverability. One part of the process is making the game, making a fun game with full of great game design. The other part is passing moderation. And then the other part is getting it out to make sure people see it. Now, we were quite fortunate. We got an epic pick. Anyone can do that. Submit it. You can submit as many times, actually. But you can't just rely on an epic pick, because that only lasts for like a couple of days, right? Or maybe a week. But you can't just rely on that. So what else could we do? Well, we also have to look at the metrics as well. Can't just look at the fact that how many times we get an epic pick. So I never thought I'd spend that much time looking at graphs, and I actually find graphs really sexy when it comes to Fortnite. So I know, nerd. But it was really important to see that, because now I can start to see at certain points we had very high peaks. And we ask ourselves, we ask everyone on the team, what did we do at that point that got that spike? Was it an update in the game? Was it a specific press release we put out? What was it? Was it a festival? So those are the sort of things we start to like log. And obviously average play time. And, you know, for us, total unique players is a bit more important than lifetime plays, because we want to know who are the individual people, how many individual people there are. So the world of metric plays a big part in your game. Now, obviously, when you're making traditional games, you make it, you ship it to the publisher releases it, and then you get a sales report once in a while. In the case of this, every morning, every evening, I'm refreshing my metrics to see what's going on. It plays a big part of the game design process. So how do we get these metrics to spike up more? It's not going to be rocket science, guys. Shout about the game. Shout as loud as possible about your game. Get people to play your game. And the only way to get them to play your game is to market the hell out of it. You don't need a massive marketing budget. A lot of it is your time. A lot of it is we all spend time on Instagram. We all spend time on social media. Use that time while you're looking at cute pictures of cats. Post about your game as well. And dogs as well for the dog lovers. But one thing that doesn't really get talked about is the replay feature. I freaking love the replay feature. In fact, the trailer that you saw was pretty much a lot of replay action from the game. But I can also create screenshots. So, I put it on my 4K monitor, make sure the resolution of the graphics card is high enough, and I just go in there, find a good angle, take a snippet screenshot, boom, I got some great screenshots. You do that as many times as you want. You can use OBS to record some footage. But it's there, guys. We have a really cool system called Replay. We should use the hell out of this because you can't just show footage of your game in action. That's cool, but you kind of need to think trailer, Hollywood trailer moments. What are the sexy moments that's going to grab someone's attention? And it's the cool, sexy moments, the trailer shots, we call it. So here's some examples of some of the screenshots. And again, these are all screenshots captured directly in Replay. There is no photoshopping. There is no color correction. That is raw screenshot, raw PNGs. So already your marketing is way easier than doing traditional film marketing because you have great content coming out of Replay. You just gotta think of it as like you're a camera person making a documentary and you're trying to capture moments. Or if you're on a Michael Bay movie trying to capture action, which is super fast. And this is some of the online press coverage we got. Now, I'm gonna talk a little bit about this because naturally you would think I'm just gonna post it on the Fortnite sites, right? I'm just gonna post it to game sites. No. Think of a hook on your game. Think of a hook as you, as creators. Press, PR, marketing, they love the story about the creator. The game is kind of secondary. It's about the people that make the game. So for us, we were quite early adopters. So we were talking about how we're transitioning from TV to video games, and it's what we're using. So places like Televisual, that only covers movies and TV, covered it. We had Game Beat. We had Creative Blog. We had a ton of magazines covering it. In fact, speaking of magazines, I even got it in Edge. Who reads Edge magazine? Who knows for Edge? Okay, it's probably... Okay, cool. I mean, for me, I bought issue 1 when I was in college. And when I left the game industry, I thought, I'm never going to get an Edge because I'm working in film. Moontopia got me into Edge and I'm working in the game industry. So again, what was the hook for the journalist? It wasn't just about a game. It was the fact that I'm tapping into the world of Fortnite to expand my IP into a lot of gaming. That is great article material because Hollywood is tapping into doing the same thing. Mario, Sonic, Pikachu, tons of The Last of Us. All these games turn into movies. It's a big industry now. So find your moment. Of course, social media, like I said earlier, Twitter, I find, or X as we call it now, is you find a lot of Fortnite people up there. Share, engage with other people, become friends with them. Don't just brag about your game, but comment about their game as well. Say, hey, I love your game. And then, like, for example, Immature Gamer will say, hey, what's a new map I should play? And then my friend would say, hey, you should play Moontopia. That helps a lot. It may not get millions of views, but you got people. You got 10, 20, even 30 people is enough. Go to game conventions. Go to trade shows. I went to IBC. I went to Gamescom. And I talked about Moontopia, just like I am doing today. Also, get yourself a Fortnite creator page because it's pretty dope. And but also, it's a validation thing to show that you are serious about making content in that ecosystem. GIFs. We all love GIFs. And I love creating GIFs. So I use Giphy. Go on to Giphy.com, sign up. I don't work for Giphy, just in case you're wondering. And just create an account. And then use Replay to create these little loopable moments. And now, now we have, on these ones we don't have it, but on the new ones we have Find It on Fortnite. Now, you're thinking, how does GIFs help? I mean, how does that help get my game exposed? Bam, we had 3.3 million GIF views. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to get 3.3 million Fortnite players, but it shows that 3.3 million people have downloaded Moontopia GIFs and are aware of your brand. That's the thing we're creating, guys. We're not just creating a game in UEFN. We're creating a brand. We're in for the long haul. We want people to be talking about Moontopia, whether it's a film, whether it's a game, whether it's a comic book, whatever, whether it's a podcast show. The other thing you have to remember is it doesn't stop when you release the game. You constantly have to update. So you have to, that's some of the things you have to think at the back of your head, especially game producers, that this isn't just a one-off thing. So UEFN is constantly being updated. You have to update your game. Right down to like, how can we create fun storytelling moments like this? We just put dub some voices in there. It could be kind of funny. Instead of going across, let's go upwards. So create more platforms. And now you've got a different games mechanic in there involved. Use the grinder rail, which came out at the time we were doing this. You're constantly updating the game. Why? Not because you always want to be up to date with the latest UEFN features, mainly because you want people to come back to your game. You've got to give them a reason to come back to your game. You want to have a reason to do more marketing material. Update your game, you got more marketing material. You got more additional new users coming. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end, and I have two big announcements. This should have been a drum roll moment. Okay, so I've been saving these announcements for you guys. Okay, first one. You ready? You ready? We're gonna. Yes, we're expanding Moontopia thanks to an epic MegaGrant. And I would advise every one of you guys that have an idea that want to make a UEFN game, apply for a MegaGrant. Because it isn't just for film and TV anymore. Now, we were very fortunate. We thank Epic for that. It allowed us to now expand the world of Moontopia. It allowed us to try different things in Moontopia, create that world, that franchise, that extra verticals. So that's one big announcement. You heard it here first. And the other one, this is something I'm really excited to do, is we're releasing our new UEFN game today. In fact, 10 minutes ago. Now, that's marketing, right? Woo! Thank you. Thanks. And again, remember, going back to Max Beyond, what else could we do with that IP? Well, let's bring that world into, let's bring that universe into the world of Fortnite. And how else could we tell that story? And the idea of Max Beyond is a guy has to protect his little brother. It's the theme of protection. This isn't the theme about blasting people and stuff. It's protection. So how do we bring the theme of protection in Fortnite? Well, first off, we changed the way we're going to play the game. We're going to play it top down, like Metal Gear Solid. You know what? Let me show you some clips. There you go. So you can now go and play that game. Type in Max Beyond, and you've got it. So play it. Let me know what you think. Feedback. We're going to be constantly updating the game. So anything that doesn't work or could be better, we'll just share. And you can do that. Oh, that's the other thing. We now have an additional graph element too. So this is going to be great, because now we get to compare the two games and see what's working in Max Beyond that we could do in Moontopia and vice versa. And the more games we make, we'll have more of these graphs. So yeah. So yeah, please do reach out to me. You can reach out LinkedIn via the HaZimation site or directly to me. I'm very open. I believe in community massively. I think, UEFN is a community-driven game development platform. So it's all about reaching out, share your work. I want to see what you guys are doing as well. I always get inspired by what other people are doing. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel, because every week we're posting content. Like I released something last week about how to use replay in detail. So please do check it out. Big fan of sharing, because obviously I learned from YouTube, and that's my way of giving back. Yeah, and now we have some time for Q&A.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think that's all we have time for today, and we'll get these folks off to lunch. But one more round of applause for this fantastic session.
Thank you.